Hi, everyone. We will take 1 minute to wait for everyone to come, and then we'll start. Okay, so hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We are delighted to have each and every one of you here. Please get comfortable and enjoy our presentation on the rise of Gen Z in the workplace. Let us introduce ourselves to you first. My name is Nada Shafi. I'm the moderator and I'm a communication major. I will be covering the dynamics part.
Hello everyone, my name is Sara Naim. I am a Human Resources Development major and I will be covering the expectations part.
Hello, I'm Usama bin Omar Mdaghri. I'm a computer scientist major, and I'll be covering the differences between Gen Z and older generations.
Hello everyone, my name is Wiam Bustam, major in International Relations, and I will be covering the qualification part of Gen Z.
Hello everyone, I'm Shayma Abu Dalal. I'm a business administration major and I'll be covering the ethics in the workplace part.
Thank you, guys. So before we start, we would like to clarify the time frames of the generations we are going to be talking about. So first of all, we have the baby boomers. Baby boomers are people born between 1950 and 1964. Generation X are people born between 1965 to 1980. Generation Y or millennials are people born between 1981 and 1995, and Generation Z are people born between 1996 and 2012. The workplace in all its field and types has witnessed drastic changes from the era of hardworking baby boomers to the intersectional and competitive Gen Z. The latter generation has broken a plethora of rules that their predecessors never really thought to be challenged and still have a hard time understanding. Generation Z employees are changing the definition of corporation etiquette, as well as shifting expectations, ethics, dynamics, qualifications, and differences. In this webinar, we're going to be covering the 5 aforementioned attributes of the workplace in Generation Z's time and place, starting with our first speaker, Sarah, who will cover the expectations part.
Thank you, Nada. So, as our audience may know, our generation is lucky to live in an era where there are more and more positive changes happening in the workplace. Companies are beginning to acknowledge that Gen Z is different. They are more socially aware, diverse, authentic, creative, tech savvy, and so on. Today, we will be exploring some of the redundant expectations that this generation harbors when it comes to what the ideal working conditions should look like. First, we have better work life integration. This means that an employee can go run an errand or attend their child's piano recital or football game during a workday. The employer trusts that their employee will get the work done eventually. This promotes better mental health, happier employees, and greater productivity overall. Second is more flexibility at work, something that previous generations unfortunately did not quite get to enjoy. Gen Z, on the other hand, are a lot more demanding about it. They expect to receive opportunities where they can offer and showcase their performance skills without it hindering their other personal endeavors. Employers should then either design flexible work schedules or allow their employees to work remotely whenever they'd like. Moreover, since the many changes happening in the workplace include more fluidity in roles, job positions, and leadership, employers should allow their employees to eventually take up their own projects or participate in ongoing ones if they wish to and if they think they have the qualifications to do so. That will make them more engaged and have them feel like they're actually helping the company achieve its goals. This connects to another expectation of Gen Zs, which is meaningful work. This was chosen as a top expectation in a survey I conducted among AUI students about this subject. Millennials have previously brought up the idea of meaningful work, but Gen Z wanted to actually be applied. In another survey from a platform called Place to Work, Gen Z workers claimed that their work had meaning 8% less than other generations did, which is very unfortunate because there's so much change they could bring. Whereas previous generations would have been satisfied with maybe a paycheck, a pat on the back, a promotion every once in a while, Gen Z want to make a real difference. They want to have an impact in their workplace that goes way beyond making ends meet. My next point is transparency. Gen Z is used to obtaining whatever they'd like in a simple click, but the workplace is not the internet, and Gen Z come to disappointingly find that most of the information, the core information, is on a need-to-know basis. Now, this can do more harm than good. As I mentioned before, Gen Z want to be more active in their workplace. So when the organization is transparent with their employees, especially when said employees are Gen Z, there's increased productivity, increased trust, more creative solutions for problems, so on and so forth. Finally, something that Gen Z expects when entering the workplace is to be involved in divergent social activities. They want to be associated with companies that actually do something about things like climate change, carbon footprint, illiteracy, poverty, and other causes like these. If anything, nowadays some organizations are losing brilliant profiles simply because they choose not to address situations like these. It's not enough for organizations to simply stay neutral anymore. All in all, these expectations that you can see here are easily achievable if companies choose to actually take action in light of the increasing demand for a better working environment that promotes both involvement and cooperation. To illustrate this a bit more, here are the results of the survey I conducted on a sample of 50 AUI students. So 40% chose meaningful work as a top expectations, as I said before, followed by a very close 35% for flexibility, 10% equally for both transparency and better work-life integration, and finally 5% for community involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Now moving on to the work ethics in the workplace among Gen Z. So Generation Z is joining the workplace. Actually, when you believe the stereotypes, you may believe they are amazing with technology, arrogant, or even overly confident. However, can we say that this is accurate, and what should we know about the Gen Z work ethics? So first, I want to discuss Generation Z flexibility that they value beyond anything else. We cannot make this generation perform if they do not want to. So if Generation Z is not permitted to utilize their yearly leave days as they choose, or are forced to work back-to-back shifts, they might hunt for a new employment. But if the circumstances are ideal, these individuals will put in the effort and they would work evenings and weekends if the money was better. Workplace flexibility is actually critical for Generation Z, and remote work is advantageous to everyone. The pandemic demonstrated the value of a flexible workplace as we saw recently during COVID-19. And you never know when you're your staff will need to make changes to their work environment. So adaptable work has also been shown in studies to be really beneficial. And it is a smart idea to start giving your staff more alternatives for where, how, and as well as when they want to work. Let them work from home or change their work schedule, etc. I conducted a survey that I got 37 answers from, and it's clear that most of the people think that Gen Z are more flexible in terms of working. As you can see, 81% agreed that they are, and 19% denied. Now, moving on to the ethical part, Gen Z works really hard to find proper job, and pay is a significant consideration when selecting an organization. Nonetheless, this youthful workforce is concerned about the company's ethics and ideals, and also this generation views differently workplace because older generations respect authority even when they disagree with it. Newer generations are more vocal in their opposition, and transparency in management is really required. You could get Gen Zs on board if you convey comments and adjustments honestly. And concerning the survey, the results were 62% agreed that Gen Z are more ethical and effective in the workplace, while 38% disagreed with that. And now, concerning the communication part, in the workplace, Gen Z is more communicative and cooperative than earlier generations because, as we all know, they grew up with technology and social media. So communication has become an important component of their lives. And Gen Z are accustomed to instant messaging, video calls, as well as other types of digital communication that might make them at ease with professional communication. Furthermore, Gen Z values teamwork and collaboration, which might contribute to their being more talkative at work. They frequently seek feedback and want to work in an encouraging setting and environment where they can freely talk with their coworkers, their managers, etc. Also, in my survey, people mostly agreed with that, as 76% of them said yes, while only 24% didn't agree with this point, as you can see from the survey. So overall, Gen Z are noted for its technology expertise and multitasking abilities. They are the first generation that grew up with internet and social media, and they have a strong need for openness and authenticity. They place a premium on meaningful employment and are more inclined to put their personal values and beliefs ahead of financial gain. They are also more prone to change jobs often if they believe their present employment is not living up to their expectations and offering them the opportunities they look up to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shayma, for your contribution. And now I'll be covering my part that's about work dynamics of Gen Z employees. As Gen Z is slowly entering the workplace and the corporate world, a lot of taboos have been broken, a plethora of work ethics have shifted, and the work dynamics are undergoing massive changes that bosses and ex-corporates from previous generations, notably Generation X and baby boomers, are having a harder time getting around to. The first dynamic that Gen Z workers and corporates are currently implementing into the modern workplace is overall equality. Unlike Gen X and millennials, Gen Z employees don't really believe religiously in a rigid hierarchy between supervisor, supervisor and employee. It is widely believed that just because a boss is in a higher rank professionally does not mean they are entitled to treating an employee as a submissive being, taking advantage of them, or determining their company status based on their ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic background, and so on. Gen Z are expecting to be treated as equals to their supervisors, all whilst maintaining the necessary amount of respect, professionalism, and workplace etiquette. Another dynamic that Gen Z is embedding into the modern workplace is overall company culture. Gen Z wants to work in companies that have a positive and inclusive culture, according to best-selling author Chris Dyer. And that is very much accurate, for Gen Z people are technically the first digital natives and have been exposed to the developments and flourishment of several human rights and intersectional socio-political movements in real time, which raise their levels of awareness and social values. It cannot help but be reflected in the way that they would pick and choose the companies they would want to work for, notably making sure that the environments they will be associated with for the next couple years is inclusive and intersectional and parallel to what they believe in. They also expect a minimum of empathy, sympathy, and flexibility from both their coworkers and supervisors. I conducted a short survey within a sample of 100 Gen Z employees and soon-to-be employees regarding the dynamics that they would be looking for when applying for a job. So as you can see in the pie chart, 34% of them picked an environment that is flexible and friendly. 33% chose an environment that prioritizes mental health, and 30% of them picked an inclusive and intersectional environment, and the rest swung between discipline-oriented and competitive. Another important thing, that a factor of the very fast-paced and revolutionary changes in work dynamics through Gen Z is the digitization of work during COVID-19. The very first college graduates from Generation Z coincided directly with the spread of COVID-19 and the global quarantine, making them start their professional journey in a very uncertain and blurry fashion. This mixture of uncertainty and ambiguity in the digital workplace has made Gen Z employees more alert and have higher levels of stress and depression, as well as more frequent burnouts, although the work is from home. But what made Gen Z special in this case is the transparency they have about their mental health within the workplace. Sure, the mental health issue has first been broken by millennial corporates, but Generation Z employees leveled it up a notch with using the right circumstances in which the current economic climates and the various health threats currently roaming planet Earth. Something else that employees from our generation are fighting off is unpaid overtime work. Gen Z is known to be the very first generation to directly refuse unpaid overtime tasks, overworking for a relatively small salary and just saying the word no to a supervisor when the situation is judged to be unfair. This act of stepping in and saying no to a supervisor is something that Gen Xers have never expected to see in the workplace ever, according to career coach Deborah Brown-Volkman, making us the first people that managed to break this generational curse within the workplace. In addition to this, Gen Z leaders perform the roles of leadership very differently from their predecessors. They are very flexible and polyvalent, and according to David Stillman, through the Journal of Accountancy, 75% of Gen Z employees in higher positions in a company, like bosses or managers, are interested in having multiple roles at one place of employment. The aforementioned dynamics are some of the most important ones that have been drastically changing and leveling up the quality of the work environment, removing toxic work culture, and breaking generational curses in the workplace that were previously implemented by baby boomers and Generation X. Of course, millennials have set this ground for Generation Z, but Generation Z dynamized what millennials have been trying to do for the past decades. Thank you.
Soon, Generation Z will represent a large portion of the workforce. Understanding these new qualifications and preferences will make any company a great option for job seekers. The first qualification is communication. according to a study that was made by Robert Half, most Gen Z employees prefer to communicate at work via face-to-face conversations, despite having grown up in a digital connected world. It's crucial for managers to prioritize communicating in a meaningful manner with their youngest workers because members of Gen Z tend to thrift or appreciate the genuine relationships with their authority figures. Other qualification is using technology as an inspiration. Because they are used to smartphones, members of Gen Z rely largely on productivity apps at work. In addition, the advent of voice command technology has elevated smartphones to the status of essential office tools for Generation Z. Employers are aware of this might use mobile-friendly apps as it can be a source of inspiration. With Google, YouTube, TikTok, and other apps, they have the world between their hands. They can figure things out of themselves without adult supervision. They are the first generation that doesn't need help for knowledge. They can get it online because they might find their answers easily. Other thing is that Gen Z value self-independence and they are self-directed. They will likely to learn new skill from watching YouTube and TikTok. This generation knows how to find the information needed to succeed. Other qualification is that this generation is motivated by stability. Gen Z are more motivated to work and they do appreciate the jobs as they grow up in a time of serious economic recession. They are more likely to avoid risk as they value the stability that comes from having a predictable job. Another qualification is that this generation is known for being resourceful, independent learners who value diversity and exclusive culture and place a priority on well-being and mental health in the workplace. Moreover, Gen Z believes that their values should be at the center of their work and that they should bring their values and beliefs to the workplace. Gen Z conduct a study to learn about companies' ethics and values before accepting a job. Business ethics are the principles that an organization follows in all aspects of its daily operations. Human rights, the environment, the climate, and an exclusive society are all ethical issues. Companies need strong ethics and they also need to show that their actions are in line with their morals and beliefs. According to a recent research, 31% of Gen Z participants said they will decline a job offer from an organization with weak ethics. Other thing is that this new generation is known for being bold, as it expresses its opinion freely. Social media has never existed without Gen Z. This generation can travel across borders and learn more about current social problems thanks to social media. Social media platforms are the platform that Gen Z utilize to advocate for changes. Uh, Back to learning, they enjoy using YouTube as well as other online instructional tools like Masterclass, LinkedIn Learning, blogs, podcasts, and other because they're all about learning new things. Um, the internet and social media were present when this generation was born, and early exposure of these technologies uh, enabled them to become more both independent and communal users of technology. They gained a deeper understanding of variety and of the value of developing their own distinctive identities as a result of their exposure to people and cultures from all over the world. Other thing is that working individually, although Gen Z doesn't have any issues in team settings, many young workers would rather work on their own projects as much as possible. Gen Zers are demonstrate their skills and abilities to potential employers by working autonomously because this generation used to competition and enjoys challenges of putting themselves on the test against someone else. One way to encourage healthy sense of competition in any workplace, particularly during the training stage, it would be better if the Gen Z are kept motivated to see the best results in workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Em. So I'll be going over the key differences between Gen Z and older generations in the workplace, and I'll be going over some of the points that my teammates already made. So I'll be first talking, next slide, please. So I'll first be talking about technology, work-life balance, diversity and inclusion, entrepreneurial mindset, and then career stability at the end. It's going to sum up most of the points that were made in the qualifications that we was talking about, since it is related to the differences between all generations. Thank you. Next slide. Okay, so first of all, comfort with technology. Gen Z has grown with technology and is more comfortable using digital tools in the workplace in comparison to older generations. They're more likely to embrace new technologies and adopt them quickly, while older generations may be resistant to this change. And communication. Gen Z prefers to communicate digitally overall, using tools such as messaging and video conferencing, such as we're doing now, and social media. They're less likely to use letters, obviously, or phone calls or face-to-face meetings, where in some fields it's kind of almost just digitally made. And the next point is mobility. Gen Z is more likely to work remotely or use mobile devices to access work-related information, even though not being in the office. They're less likely to be tied to a physical office space or a desktop computer, while older generation would like mostly just stay in their desk and work because of the technology constraints. And learning, Gen Z is more likely to use online resources to learn new skills and information. They're more comfortable with self-directed learning and are able to access information quickly because of how comfortable they are with technology and how resourceful it is. And overall, Gen Z is comfortable and familiar, and its familiarity with technology can be an advantage in the workplace. Particularly when it comes to adapting new tools and processes. So now I'll be going over work-life balance. Sorry. Okay. So Gen Z is more likely to prioritize and place higher priority on work-life balance than older generations. They are more likely to seek out flexible work arrangements, such as remote work and flexible hours, and prioritize their personal lives and well-being over work. And Gen Z also is more likely to challenge traditional work structures, such as the 9 to 5 jobs. With the technology use, there's like other alternatives to this, like working remotely or working more efficiently using technology. And we value flexibility and freedom in their work and in work, and we're more likely to seek out employers who offer more modern approach to work rather than traditional ones. Work hours. Gen Z is more likely to work outside of traditional hours, such as the evening and weekends when it comes to accommodate personal commitments or interests, or just overall developing their skills. Uh, um, and obviously, as mentioned before, the technology used, Gen Z is more comfortable with technology, so working remotely and in different locations makes it so it can help and contribute to better work-life balance. And work as a means to an end. Gen Z views work as a means to an end rather than the central focus of their lives. They're more likely to prioritize their personal goals and aspiration over their career goals and seek out work that align with their values and interests. Overall, Gen Z prioritizes like work-life balance can bring a positive shift to the workplace culture, in comparison to older generations, with the focus on flexibility and better understanding of the importance of self-care. So next point. Thank you. Diversity. Gen Z values diversity a lot more than older generations did. Diversity is sought for in the workplace, and prioritize diversity and inclusion. They're more likely to expect diversity in the workplace and to challenge employers who do not. Inclusive language. Gen Z is use Gen Z use of inclusive language and challenge languages that exclusionary or discriminatory. They're more aware of the impact of language and the importance of creating inclusive environment that makes everyone comfortable. Diversity as a priority. Gen Z is more likely to prioritize diversity when choosing an employer or a career path. They see diversity as a crucial factor in creating a positive work environment, and they value work that prioritizes diversity and inclusion, as mentioned before. Inclusive workplace culture. We're more likely to expect a more inclusive workplace culture that values diversity and promotes equity. Um, and we challenge a lot more discriminatory behaviors and hold employers accountable for creating an inclusive environment because of the entrepreneurial mindset that Gen Z has. So, yes, next point. Thank you. Entrepreneurial mindset. Gen Z has an overall stronger entrepreneurial mindset than older generations. They're more likely to seek out entrepreneurial opportunities, take risks, and innovate in their work. We've been noticing this change throughout the last 2 decades. Risk-taking. Gen Z is more comfortable with taking risks and starting their own business. Um, they're more likely to embrace failure as a learning opportunity to see it as a natural part of the entrepreneurial process, which is creativity. Gen Z is more creative and innovative than older generations. Are more likely to use technologies to create new products, services, and business models. And we've been noticing this shift as well in the last decades with the booming industries all over the globe, and the amount of businesses that have been opened in the last 2 decades. Independence. Gen Z is more independent than older generations. They're more likely to work for themselves and start their own businesses. And since they're more likely to take risks and create their own career paths. And flexibility. Gen Z values flexibility and autonomy in their work. They're more likely to prioritize their personal goals, as mentioned before, and inspirations, and seek out work that is that give them those values and interests. So overall, Gen Z has a pretty strong entrepreneurial mindset that can be an asset in the workplace, particularly when it comes to innovation, which we really need in this time. And my last point is career stability. Thank you. So, job hopping. Gen Z is more likely to job hop and change employers frequently than older generations, and they're more likely to switch jobs if they feel like their current position does not align with their values or goals. Career development. Gen Z's higher priority on career development than older generations are more likely to seek out opportunities to learn and grow, and may prioritize career development over stability. Flexibility, as mentioned before, and uh, loyalty. Older generation may place a value on loyalty more than Gen Z and long-term commitment to employers. Older generation may be more likely to stay with one employer for their entire career and prioritize job stability over career development, while it's the opposite for the Gen Z. Economic uncertainty. Older generations may be more cautious about job stability. That's why they choose to stay with one employer and have their seat kind of set. Instead, since because of their experience with economic instability and job loss in the past, they've been kind of worrying about this and would rather stay with one employer and have their own place. But with Gen Z, they don't have as much experience, may be looking for a more career development driven job rather than stability. So overall, Gen Z focuses on career development and flexibility may result in a more fluid approach to um, their career stability, while older generation may prioritize um, all loyalty and uh, job stability and with their employers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, team. Thank you for everyone's collaboration and effort. We have covered 5 major aspects and concepts that come with Gen Z's rise in the modern workplace, in which expectations, ethics, dynamics, qualifications, and differences. Although in reality there is an endless pool of further aspects to speak about, these will do for now in terms of understanding the importance of breaking the traditional workplace curses that have harmed workers over the past 70 or 80 years. Hopefully, the next generation, Generation Alpha, will do a greater revolutionary job using the grounds Gen Z is currently setting for them to dynamize and fuel up these values and reforms, really, that we ourselves took up from millennials. It is a long stairway that each generation, starting the boomers, have been building up slowly further up successively, and the next generations following Gen Z will keep it up for sure until the utopian workplace is achieved, hopefully. We would absolutely love to answer any questions that you have and receive any feedback. Our ears will be open and feel free to say anything. Thank you, Uma. I'll read your question for everyone. Actually, out of all these important expectations, which one would you think would have the most impact once applied in the workspace? I will say my take, and I would love for my teammates to also say their take. But I think um, qualifications are currently having a huge impact in the modern workplace. I think it's the most challenged, the most revolutionary aspects that Gen Z are reforming. What do you think, teammates?
If I may, I believe that out of all the expectations that could be there, and God knows there are so many, I think that flexibility is definitely one of the top expectations, because when there's flexibility in roles, tasks, leadership, work schedule, and so on, that generates a much needed boost in motivation, which in turn will increase productivity. And we know that increased productivity will enable companies to reach their goals faster and foster a work environment where employees are happy. And that is a very important thing, because when employees are happy, they are more committed to the company. And so overall, I just feel like flexibility has a more noticeable long-term impact in comparison to other expectations.
I would also add a point if it's possible. I think it has a huge contribution would be technology use. We're the first kind of generation that is as comfortable with technology And I think the amount of resources and information that we can get out of the technology use and comfort with it is a huge added bonus and value to the workplace. The way it can bring the flexibility that Sarah mentioned, the resources and information that can be gotten from the technology use, and yeah, that's basically it.
I totally agree. I think that technology will actually put a huge impact on the workplace. Gen Z are tend to seek knowledge online. They can find data, they can find informations easily, which is actually a bonus, as our teammate Sama said.
Someone commented one thing that Gen Z should consider to prepare for the workplace this next year. I would say develop digital skills, since as we can see from now that social media and technology have is going all around, and you can't do anything without technology. Another thing I would say is problem solving, collaboration, teamwork, etc.
Thank you so much for. We would love to answer your question, Rihab, but unfortunately, we are kind of on a time crunch. We have a specific amount of minutes we can't really exceed. That I would be happy to answer it personally if you would love to know the answer. And on this note, thank you. Thank you very much for attending our webinar. We would like to apologize beforehand for any technical issues that we might have had. And most importantly, we hope that you had as much fun as we did presenting this. Thank you warmly.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.